Welcome to Serenity, Game Systems Foundation. Last time, we worked Serenity into an existing project with the init flow, sounds, music, and a game over model. Today, we improve the first thing the player sees, a custom splash screen tied to the initialization pipeline, an animated logo on the initial screens, and a menu background cinematic driven by the game mode. Remember the rule, Unity composes the visuals, and Serenity decides when they play. First of all, import the assets for the splash. Open the cutscene wizard. It generates the whole structure, definition, rig, prefab, optional trigger scripts, and init task, from one window instead of by hand. Set the ID and name for the new cutscene. By default, logo splash gives the stages. The sequence is data, not code. On generating rig, create new. The wizard makes an empty rig prefab next to the definition with the required components already wired. You'll fill in the visuals later. Leave generate a play trigger on. It creates a signal on action, so later anything can play this cutscene by dispatching a signal. Enable create an init pipeline task. This generates a Unity reflection called task definition that calls the cutscene player to play the splash during initialization. Pick the destination media folder. Keep registering cutscene player settings on. On finish, click on create cutscene. Open the generated rig prefab. The logic exists, but the visuals are empty. A UI canvas or world space camera both work. Keep it clean. Use a dark background, the logo, and a subtle move. Create the animator controller and the proper animations for the logo. The stages own the order fade in, wait, fade out, and the animator owns what happens inside while visible. Open the initialization pipeline profile and place the generated Unity reflection called task definition so it runs after the services are registered but before the first interactive screen. This splash is a registered cutscene invoked by the pipeline, so you can reorder, replace, or remove it freely. Now we are adding the game logo to the game loop. The logo lives in the UI layer, driven by the game mode. Import the logo sprite and configure it. Set the texture as sprite and the sprite mode as multiple. Open the sprite editor and slice the sprites. Slice also the sprites for the mask. Create a feedback to be used on the game logo animation. Use the wizard tool in order to create quickly all elements needed. Populate feedback ID and name. Select the desired feedbacks. In our case, we're going to apply a UI shake effect, a flash, and a sound effect at once. Choose the output folder and mark the checkbox in order to create event dispatcher actions. Create the logo prefab. Create an animator controller and two animations, one for the entry and another one for the idle. Add a new signal emitter component and attach to it the Unity event dispatcher signal definition of our new feedback. Go to the animation and use the signal emitter component. Make the transitions between animation states. Add the game logo to the UI prefab. Create a show game logo action and hide game logo action. We are going to use them at the game mode settings. On the show action, just look for the game logo label and enable the game object. Do the same on the hidden action, but in this case, disable the game object. Now is the moment to use the show and hide signals. Go to the game mode settings definition and assign it on the proper triggers. Let's see what's the result. The next feature is to create a second cutscene, but persistent. It stays alive across the player input gate and the menu modes. So, use the cutscene wizard tool. Open the generated rig. Set the elements you want to show in the scene. Place a camera and some lights. Make sure this camera has the highest priority, and delete the audio listener auto-generated by Unity. We're going to create a forward movement on the camera using the timeline. Go to the game mode settings and use the signals generated on the cinematic for play and stop. And finally, this is what we have. We built a splash via the wizard, filled the rig with visuals, wired it into the pipeline, then added a UI logo and a menu cinematic driven by game modes. The lesson isn't how to show a splash, it's a structure and presentation flow. This project stops being scene scripts and become a game built on reusable Serenity systems. We are not hard-coding the startup presentation, we are making it part of the game flow. In the next tutorial, we're going to customize the Serenity theme. We will take the default UI foundation and adapt it to the look of the game. Colors, typography, menu style, selection feedback, and the general visual language of the initial screens. Because once the flow is controlled, the next step is making that flow feel unique.